This episode is also available in 3D. For more information, go to funnyhacks.com/C3D.
Today we're doing 3D footage. Whoa!
Hi, I'm Kevin.
I'm getting polish. Cool.
And I'm Tim Hildyard.
See? Easy! And we're here to show you a hack that is weird, unusual, and the occasional useful one too.
Sometimes they work out really well.
Sometimes not so much. But either way, it's a fun way to learn about the technology that surrounds us every day. This is Funny Hacks.
That noise makes the logo look big. Shut up!
Okay, so today we're going to use two consumer cameras to produce some 3D footage. This is really fiddly, and so hopefully I can give you a little bit of a head start in getting into it.
Every time he sets it up, it takes probably about 5 minutes.
Yes.
He's getting better.
Yes, and so as I've been progressing through all these different mounts, they've all had their different pros and cons which I've been working towards. So this is the very first one that I worked on, and this is based on an idea which I had seen on the net, which was basically to stabilise a cheap HD camera just using a bottle filled with water. So
For ballast.
Yep. So one of the things that I did with this was I wanted to have the different points on here so I could change how far apart the cameras were. Now, if you go and read online, there's lots and lots of information about recording 3D footage, and they talk about how you want to have it as close to sort of what the eyes see as possible. And so when you're dreaming up, imagining how this is all going to go, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have the cameras this far apart so that we get the really, really extreme 3D experience.
Doesn't work!
Yeah, it really is hard to look at. You get like a small part right in the centre there, which looks really extremely 3D, and everything else your eyes just go cross-eyed for. So you don't want to do that. You want to have it as close to, for almost everything that you do, you want to have it as close to your eye, the distance between your eyes as possible. So that was the first one. The problems, the good things with this, it's very easy to keep it all stable. But you see here, I've got 3 layers of wood. The idea was that I could then align the screws and tighten it up so that they would be tightened in the right position. What actually happened was that I'd get them all nicely calibrated. I'd spend about 10 or 15 minutes just calibrating it. I'd get it all beautiful, and then I'd knock the thing and then I'd go,
I've got nothing to add to that.
Okay, so I then went on to. I'm going to try. Actually, do you want to see if you can stand that? See, this is the interesting part of the show, is how well I'll look at that.
I can't stand that thing. You know.
So these two here were basically the same idea again. This time I had a slightly smaller screw, slightly smaller hole, so that you can screw.
Either way, it sounds dirty.
Yep. So that way you can screw tripods and stuff into it rather than being restricted to one type of mount. And then I had the bigger holes on the side for sort of these screws which I'd cut down, so these bolts which I'd cut down to take basically any type of camera. You'll see the only difference between these two is the width, and that's so I could experiment with having the cameras closer and further apart. This worked beautifully. It gave me pretty average results easily every time. So we had one end of the equation working really well, and the other end of the equation,
Which one did you take the Fast Tracks 3D footage with?
Fast Tracks, I did this one here.
Ah,
Okay.
leading on.
Yep, so this one here was my first sort of really good results, like almost right. Itchy nose.
Well, now that you mention it.
So what I did here was I just took the aluminium, I drilled some big holes in there, stuck the bolts through, put some washers in there, and then I just kept, I got one side all firm, and then the other, I glued one side firm, and then the other side I just sort of slowly adjusted it with the bolts tight, with the nuts tight. I always get nuts and bolts around the wrong way. Yeah, once I had both sides in the position I want, I then glued it in position, and it was almost spot on. So I did quite a lot of footage using this mount, and I was pretty happy with the results. Generally, I had everything fairly right this way, but not quite so much that way. So that led me on to my final camera mount, which is what is currently in use at the moment. So I'm not going to be able to show you close up right here, but if you have a look to this spliced in footage, so the advantage with that setup is you'll see that instead of trying to secure everything around a very small area, I've now got the actual mount a fair bit wider, and then I'm actually getting the camera to press against some rubber either side of this, and then the screw is actually pulling it down through that rubber. And the idea is that we get a very, very stable that way. We get very, very stable that way. I've got all the screws and everything glued, so the washer is glued into the right place so that they don't wobble around as well. And then the last little thing that I did there, which you'll be able to see, is that essentially this is up the other way, and so the camera screws in there, and then just that extra bolt on the bottom just sort of helps pull it down into the rubber, and it gives us some fine adjustment of the thing. This one has worked very, very well. It's still not quite there at my goal of getting it that I can just clunk everything together and record, but it's getting pretty close.
Fair enough.
This episode is already getting pretty long, so what I'm going to do, there's a whole heap of things that you can do for making the footage work well together, how you edit it, how you get things synced up, how you mind blank. But so there's going to be 2 follow-ups which are specifically for this episode. One which will be in the bonus footage, and that's going to be just giving you the bare minimum so you can actually go and start using this and playing around with it. And then the next one will be how we actually make it start looking cool. And I think probably this episode has gone on quite long enough, and we should wrap up.
Yeah.
Spectacularly spectacular.
Good.
That'll work?
Cool. I prefer to splice me.
The nuts tight. I always get nuts and bolts around the wrong way. I just thought of something really bad. Anyway,
I thought of several things really bad.
See, I hadn't even got that there was potentially a joke there until you did that.
It's so innocent.
Anyway, I'm not going to say that. Anyway.
Right.